Okay, so yesterday's video we posed the question of if I didn't go the negative route, then where does that leave me to go? What do I talk about? That stuff, right? And let's just say the universe has given me plenty of opportunities to see what that would possibly look like, right? So, momentarily, we're going to go back to one of the more recent issues with the shitty stories, right? So, right, so I've complained a few times about the day that I went into the living room and discovered there was human shit on the floor and a towel that had just been thrown over it and, left. So obviously that stinks to high hell, right? So, it was. There's been drama, right? There's been a whole lot of drama with this whole situation. So there's the issue where my dad was running around the house completely naked and then shits on the floor and leaves it there because somebody else is supposed to clean up after him, right? Because he's that was never he never bought into the existence of having to grow up and take care of anything yourself. He bought into that shitty idea of somebody else will just cater to you and do what you don't want to do, right? Because he's a man, probably, and that there's just always supposed to be women going around cleaning things up after him because he doesn't want to do the things, right? So the trash that gets left out, the fucking apple cores on the end tables by his seat on the couch, the beef jerky wrappers, fruit snack wrappers that get in the couch, so like the armrest of the couch, right? And all this kind of stuff. So there's the drama with the shitting on the floor. And I went off on him because I'm not about, I don't care that I am 42 years old and currently living back in this space. He's going to clean up after himself if he's doing that kind of shit. Especially since he was fully coherent of the fact that, yes, he shat upon the floor. And, yes, he left it there because he was going to clean it up later. Which ultimately comes down to when either me or my mom found it, we were supposed to clean it up. And that was just supposed to be it. Like, he was never supposed to hear of it again. We were just supposed to deal with it. Oh, yuck. Hold on. Pardon that nasty intermission. This little heathen had found a hairball and was chewing on it. So we had to tend to that issue. And she is very sad that I tended to it and it went into the toilet and not into her tummy. Anyway, so so there's been shitty drama, right? Lately. Like, that's the big thing. It has been irritating as fuck dealing with this whole drama, right? So then, beyond that, because of course that's not it, the other day, there was the time I was getting ready to take my dogs out to go on a walk. And as I looked over, my dad's dog had shit on the floor. And he was just ignoring it. And I mentioned it, and he did clean it up. But when I was talking to my mother lately, and I brought that up, because it was over by the spot where I tried to use the carpet cleaner after he, petted it or whatever, because we were because we were turning the AC back on. And so had to, had to hit it with the carpet cleaner in hopes that smell would not just be, all we get to experience the next several or weeks or whatever, right? I don't want that. So I used the carpet cleaner to try to clean it up, the human spot, when we were going to the AC, and it made it worse. And then I ended up hitting it again with the carpet cleaner the next day and I spread it out even further. It doesn't smell near as bad as it could. I haven't really noticed it since like the big problem, or big especially problematic areas have been dealt with to some capacity. But still, it's gonna need freaking professionally cleaned. It's just and that fucking carpet cleaner will probably just need to be thrown away at some point in the not too distant future, because ew. But yeah, so since it smells over there, I mentioned in the video the other day when we had the septic tank pumped, and he didn't immediately cover or put the dirt back on top of the lid, the dogs started going to that spot and pooping in that spot because they realized that's where the smell was coming from. That was clearly the pooping spot. So, like, that tree has always been where the dogs have primarily gone in the backyard. They will go all around the backyard, but the tree is like the number one go-to area for all the dogs and has been for years. Largely because of the septic tank, and they can smell that over there. So that's just naturally the shitting part, right? So then for the family room to smell like shit, clearly it's okay for the dogs to go there too, because the human did, right? So it smells like poop. This is what we do here. So okay, so my dad's dog pooped on the floor over there, and yeah. So there's further drama, right? So there was the human issue with my father and the attempt to leave it for somebody else to have to deal with. And don't get me wrong, we've still had to deal with it way more than he had to deal with it. Because, like all the clothes and stuff that, he like apparently had a blanket around him at some point when he just shit on the floor, and the blanket went into a laundry basket without mentioning to my mom what had happened. And so there's just like shit in the laundry basket, and it was just hanging out in the family room as well. So it's like adding to the stench. When I saw the shit in the basket and moved it for my mom to see, and she said put it in the laundry room, and so I put it in the laundry room. It ended up bringing the smell to the rest of the house, right? Because the laundry room's kind of dead center, and the one door to the laundry room's in the kitchen, the other door to the laundry room goes to the hallway or living room, whichever way you veer. And so when I was getting up to go to the bathroom or whatever, it's like, oh, it smells again. Right? Because we just can't get rid of it. A lot of laundry has been done since then, and it is immensely better. But there's still been a whole lot of drama with the shitty stuff, right? So, yes. So, going back to yesterday and posing this question of if I don't always just go to the aggravating stories or the pessimistic things, then what do I talk about? What does that leave? Right? So, as I'm trying to navigate this space, interesting thing happens. So, so my dad didn't immediately clean his stuff up, and did a piss poor job of handling any of it, although he did end up laying in it later. So, yeah. And then it took my mom and I both saying something to him for him to clean up the dog shit that was by his shit spot, after the fact, right? So, yesterday, I was thinking about making a salad at like 7:30, right? So I go into the kitchen, and my dad's at the table eating a bowl of vegetable soup. And I walk over to the sink and wash my hands and step on dog shit. And we're going to go with the guesstimation that it was probably a Sheltie, because the Shelties have the fuzziest butts and are notorious for, if there's only one spot, it's generally because somebody had it stuck in their butt hair and it fell off somewhere along the way. So that's kind of the assumption of what that was, right? But of course, I'm at the sink and I just stepped in the dog poop. So I'm pissed because I just stepped in the damn dog poop. And that's never not irritating, right? And my dad says, oh, I was getting ready to clean that up. It's like, yeah, sure you were. Like, you were getting ready to clean up all that shit last week, right? So, of course, I took the paper towel that I was drying my hands with and picked it up and threw it in the trash and all that crap because, and of course went off on my dad in the process because past experience says he's not actually going to try to clean it up, right? So I was all pissy, right? Because this is another shitty story to have to start off with. And I went back to say something else to my mom and of course got sidetracked with that drama too. And she said, oh, I saw that in there. It's like, so you both saw it and didn't do anything about it. So, I mean, naturally she's got a broken back, so she can't just do it. But she says that she asked my dad to do it and he said he would, but she said he could go ahead and finish his soup first, right? So, yeah. So it got handled by me because I was the one that stepped in it and was pissed off enough that from that whole situation in and of itself, had to clean it up and then I had to go clean my foot. It just the aggravation on that end. So there's like this whole another level of, rage kicking in. It's like, then at some point, this little corgi heathen had to complicate things yesterday evening. She just figured out the dog door. She will not use the dog door if she has to potty. So that's only if we're all going outside that she'll go out the dog door. So I was in my office and then all at once I hear my dad say, your dog peed on the floor. It's like, first off, this is not my dog. This is very much, I'm doing this to help my aunt out and get a little bit of cash to pay some shit as well. But yeah, as it is my responsibility, he was thrilled to death to be able to say that. So I had to clean it up, right? Because, it's this little pain in the ass. So I go and handle it. And didn't have any conversation with anybody, just handled it and left, right? And when I brought this thing back over here last night, second to last night that I have to do this. So she'll hang out with us again tonight, and then I will bring her back and then deal with her a couple times tomorrow, and then her people will be back, thank God. Because I'm kind of just this whole week, the whole week and a half, it's been a whole fucking pain in the ass, right? So anyway, so I bring her back, put her to bed, and go back over to my house, right? And take the dogs outside and spend some time out there with them. And of course, as I am going in the direction of the backyard, I see somebody else has shit in the same spot. Oh, but keeping in mind, where she peed was also near the shit spot in the house. So, yeah. But yeah, then later there was poop by it too. So it's like, whether it was her or whether it was Piper, I don't know. Could go either way. But I had a moment where I was very inclined to just leave it for him. And then I had that thought that popped into my head of, well, but then you're no better than he is. It's like, yeah, well, I left it in the time to go outside with the dogs and, have this whole thought process in my head. And I knew I was going to clean it up, and I'm still going to be pissed about it because it's another fucking shit story for whatever's been going on, right? But I was like, now here I am with this whole situation. It's like the deal with her peeing on the floor. He was absolutely more than happy to gloat about, right? And it's like, just tell. Like, the same thing with when I got the carpet cleaner out because I didn't want the house to smell like human shit. When we shut it up so we could have the air conditioning on. And so I actually got the carpet cleaner out and was doing that. He was sitting on that damn couch smirking, right? The same damn stupid smirk of, ha ha ha, I did something that you had to clean up after me for. That kind of thing. But then, it's like, I just dealt with it on the dog, or on the corgi pee. And then the next round, it's like, it's just that moment of, out of spite, I kind of wanted to leave it so he have to deal with it. But then it was like, well, I don't know if it was the corgi or I don't know if it was his dog. So it was, easy toss up between the two. Because neither one of them is really good about, neither one of them has figured out using the dog door for the sake of going outside to potty. Piper's figured it out to run away from people and to just be outside. She's not real good about coming back in after. But all the rest of them are good about just doing their business outside, except every now and then Pepper will get it stuck in her butt hair and drop a random turd some stray place around the house. And you can usually tell it's her because it's just like one. It's like, damn it! But anyway, like, when that happened, it was like, oh, I had that moment of, fuck you should have to clean it up. And I was like, nope. But then we're just right there with, his petty bullshit, right? So it's like, fine. So I cleaned it up. And, it's dealt with, right? So moving on, right? So this morning I woke up and was kind of thinking about the difference between the ego versus the shadow, right? Because I've been hearing a lot of things that have been talking about, like, it's not that you're trying to kill the ego, it's that you're trying to, essentially starve it, feed spirit, and, the ego's going to be like the little weed that shrivels up because it wasn't getting taken care of, kind of a thing. That kind of principle, right? So, anyway, that was what I was thinking of this morning. And right along with all this crap from yesterday, and especially the, if not this, then what, right? If I'm not these things, if I don't want to be this old version of me, then what does that leave? What do I get to do, right? And so today I decided I was going to go run, right? Decided I was going to do it a couple days ago. It's like I didn't have anything else going on. It's like, I need to run. I need to get this nonsense out of my system and make this, exercise thing a regular thing, a priority again, because there's been a lot of family BS getting in the way of what I've been wanting to do, whether it's run, skate, walk dogs, all those things. Literally every single one of those has been hit to some degree because of the drama with my family. And also because of the drama with the family, and because I'm not doing the healthy things that I want to do more of, the eating habits are kind of going by the wayside. So that's been something I've been really frustrated about here lately is, so when I started skating a lot by myself in 2023 and kind of, I became somewhat obsessed with it for a while. I got to a point where I had essentially lost 50 pounds. I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. But while I have not gotten back up to where I was, every time something gets in the way, and like the numbers start building back up in the way I don't want them to, and, I start feeling like a chub, basically. It's been really frustrating, because then I see like all these things that I was doing so good with prioritizing for a long time, and then family got in the way, and then I was starting to try to build momentum back into it, and then family got in the way, right? So it's like every single time then family gets in the way. And so when I realized, it's like, okay, there's nothing going on today, I am going to run. So I went and ran, and it was not pretty at all. I talked about when I first started running, it was like they were over 15-minute miles. I mean, of course, I always do 2 miles, and so of course it averages out with however much I end up walking along the way, and then adding in with the other when I actually do run. The first time, it was like a 15-minute, 30-second pace or something like that. It's like, ugh. Right? So it's like, after that, I started being able to shave some time off of it. And I think I ran like 6 times when I started back to it. And, it was like 15:30 average the first time. And then the last time, the best time was like 13:38. Right? So it's like, okay, little improvements, I will take them. But then, my parents did their dumb shit. My dad took himself off his CPAP machine for 2 weeks and had another stroke. And then my mom broke her back after I told her she's going to have to learn how to figure out how to exist without me, because I don't want to be here forever. Right? So then she just falls because she's trying to carry too much heavy shit. And basically one of those to spite you situations, right? So she's trying to spite me because I don't want to be here forever tending to their bullshit. So she does the thing, takes on too much that she can't do, and falls and breaks her back, right? So then of course we get all slowed down again. So I was really frustrated when the other day, I think a couple days ago, 2 or 3 days ago, I ran again, and it had been like a week and a half or something. And I was back to like 15 something. And I was like, fuck, it takes no time at all to like lose all forward momentum on this, right? So today I was back to like 14 something. It's like still not wonderful, but I would hit these spans while I was running where I was thinking, I really don't like running. Why am I running? This sucks. And then I was thinking about it. It's like, no, we're not doing that. That is not the existence we're shifting back to. So, I start throwing in that I love running, right? Even though I wasn't feeling like I loved running at all. Especially like right now with the seasons changing, it's like my lungs have been feeling a little more congested than they have for a long time. And like, okay, the like breathing issues kind of run in the family. I think my dad's got like 3 inhalers that he's currently on. He's got COPD. Granted, he was a freaking smoker for years. And, so me and my brother were always around it. But, like sinus issues, bronchitis, like all these things. It's like those have been things that feel relatively chronic in the family. Right? And it's like every every time the weather starts changing, it's like, I just feel it, right? And it's like, nope, we're not telling that story anymore while we're running. So I start trying to, like every time I think the thought of I really hate running and why am I doing this, it's like, nope, I love running and my lungs are clear and this is easy, right? So like changing it with like positive things instead, rather than just allowing myself to sink into that negative end of things again, right? And so it's like, it's been a constant back and forth just since yesterday of posing that question of, if this isn't who I want to be anymore, then what does that mean? Who do I be? Right? So, yeah. So I was thinking, it's like, all right, so what I'm doing is actively changing that. And then, I came over after I was done running and hung out over here with Daisy in the backyard for a while. And I was just thinking about, that's what it is it's a choice. It's rather than shifting back to the negative all the time, what are you replacing it with? And this is like just all these thoughts today, man. Okay, so, yeah, so I'm trying to navigate that, right? Trying to catch myself when I want to shift to the pessimism or the negative ways of being. And it's like, okay, how can we reframe this? And how can we consider it differently so we're more positive about what we want to do and where we're going forward, right? So yeah. And there was another thought in there. There have been so many things that I have been thinking of today that, they're kind of, it's like a whole big, like everything's just kind of dancing together and I'm trying to navigate through it. And I spent some time writing this morning and posing that question of what's the difference between ego versus shadow. And what I come up with as the day has gone on further is, ego is essentially, that's like, we come to this space, forget who we are and what we're here to do. And we think that this ego, this inner voice that's yelling at us, well, oftentimes yelling at us, is who we are. But it's not. It's just the thing that in this space is trying to keep us safe, but also blocking us from being able to do the things. But sometimes with legitimate reason, right? So then I was thinking about how I very much remember times where I was trying to be upbeat and, dreaming big and, just imagining these really fantastic kind of outcomes and scenarios for existing, right? Like my dad and I used to talk about what we would do if we won the lottery, even though we never played or whatever, or rarely played rather. It's just like the property, back when I was in middle school, I wanted a horse, since I have had so very many different animals beyond that point. It's like, yeah, I don't think I want to take care of a horse at this point. So that dream just, that got shelved. But, back then it was something that sounded amazing, right? So it just like these different scenarios, it's like I used to dream big. But then, being that I am in the family that I am in, more and more, it was like those moments got kind of hijacked and shifted into the space of, you don't deserve that, right? So it's just like this ongoing thing with like getting talked down in various ways. And I admit that not all of the talking that I heard was directed at me. But when I'm this little kid and I'm listening to my grandma, running her mouth about, well, that was stupid. What'd you do that for? Even though she was saying the things to herself, that became one of those voices that I automatically picked up because that's what I was hearing around me, right? So because I was hearing that so much, I internalized it, and then it became one of the voices that, was yelling the loudest at me. That's been a whole thing to navigate through too, because it's like, okay, so what of the stuff that I did pick up was actually, because don't get me wrong, there's absolutely been a whole lot of that stuff that, as a little kid, I shouldn't have had to deal with, right? As a high school kid, I shouldn't have had my mother approaching me after we won a drumline thing to say, I deserve this as much as you do. And literally hijacking the whole thing from me, and going back to my fucking bear picture from January where I found out I won the contest. And then my parents found a way to piss on it within like the first half hour. And then I spent the rest of the day crying. It's like, this is why I haven't been able to do more in my life. Right. So it's like just this constant back and forth. And like, I know, the big dreaming version that is still me in there. It's got to be the one that I am, I guess, nourishing the most, right? So I'm thinking, okay, going back to the shadow and ego point, like the animal apothecary deck that I talk about a lot. There is a card in there that's Nourish Your Shadow, right? And it's talking about how, it's got jaguar on it, and it says that, or it talks about how, the more you try to shun the shadow and send it to the forest's recesses of your brain or whatever, it's more isolated, and her power kind of grows and becomes more self-destructive, right? So then because you're trying to banish this negative part of yourself, it gets louder, right? It gets more difficult to ignore. And so, like, I've spent a lot of time with those cards, and I've pulled that card many times in the past couple years, and trying to really navigate that whole thing too, right? Because it talks about, if you're going to banish her, she will become the master of self-sabotage. And it's like, hey, that's one of those, like, great big struggles that I've had to deal with my whole life, right? So it's like, okay, so it's acknowledging the painful feelings and writing it out with, essentially your wounded child self, right? So all the things that supported the idea in my life that to me registered as confirmation that I wasn't worthy of something, that was feeding into this shadow aspect, right? So because I believed that I wasn't worthy of good things, then, when something good would happen, like before, there have been plenty of things that I have automatically shifted to self-sabotage on long before my family even got anywhere near the situation. It was just because, okay, so when I'm trying to write in undergrad, I still had those voices in my head that, that essentially were telling me I wasn't good enough and couldn't do the thing. And so I would automatically block myself from putting forth like the substantial effort that I am capable of if I really, if I really choose to focus on something and move in that direction. Yeah. So anyway, so thinking about the shadow aspect, it's like the ego probably at times stepped in as a means of trying to protect the wounded shadow child self, right? That the shadow, but it's not the shadow, so, there's also a lot of messages in there about how your shadow is where your diamond lies. And, so you have to not try to banish it because there's something there that is meant to be found, right? Some kind of treasure that you are meant to find and be able to share that with the world, right? So that's definitely not the same thing as the ego that's trying to block you from doing anything useful or worthwhile or whatever, because, it might have gotten strengthened in all the ways you got hurt along the way, but the shadow's kind of where you've taken more of the wounding, I think. It's a work in progress. As with everything else on this channel, anything I am talking about is really a work in progress. So that's something I've been kind of thinking through today. Another okay, after I got done running, I went and walked my dogs. And then I went home and took a shower. I actually fixed my bangs because they were like, most of the color had washed out of them, and I needed to work on them because they were driving me nuts. So I fixed the bangs and a few other spots, which is why some of it looks brighter than others. But that was something I did, right? So as I'm waiting on this stuff to set, I, went and had breakfast. I got ready to take a shower. Took a shower. Listened to my music, thinking through all the things and thinking about like all this stuff, even that I've been working through on here. And had this interesting little predicament that essentially I manifested this a long time ago. I was trying to, nose ring. My nose actually doesn't look near as bad as it did earlier, which I'm surprised. Yeah. Thanks. So I'm in the shower, singing along, dancing along, whatever, because this is the music that's playing, and, just good headspace, right? Because I'm thinking about, basically, I can create whatever the fuck I want to create at this point, right? Then I get out of the shower. And at some point, so I mess with this a whole lot, right? And I've talked on here a lot about how I like this side to be just out of, just out of my nostril because otherwise it easily pops out of the back hole, right? I'm trying not to lose this damn thing, right? I spent money for these piercings in my nose and I don't want to lose them, even though I've done so many videos with my nose looking a hot mess. Hi, thank you. And I have talked about it many times, right? So I had the onyx and the ruby for a long time. And then I got the double hoop because the whole purpose of me having the two piercings was because I liked the way the double hoop looked. So it wasn't the exact color that I thought, because I kind of like the oil slick looking color, and I couldn't find that anywhere in the double hoop. So they had rose gold. I like rose gold. I do not like yellow gold so much. White gold I like, but I like rose gold better. So, right, so they had rose gold, so I got it, right? And it was a long time before I got brave enough to take the studs out and put the hoop in. And it was a whole terrifying process, right? But I finally did it. And between trying to navigate getting it into the holes in the exact right spot, I made myself sick because, messing with new piercings, even though they were over a year old when I was actually trying to switch the hoops. or switch to the hoops. It's like I kept going through these phases of it would be healed, and then something would happen, and then it'd be all sore looking, right? And then I finally decided to brave it and put the hoop in. And at first I was all sorts of ready to panic when I was trying to switch it out because I didn't know what I was doing and I didn't have anybody to kind of talk me down. So I was just like, me and my anxiety, right? So me and my anxiety trying to work on my freaking nose ring. So I worked on it for a while, and just messing with the piercing made me nauseous. And I got to a point, it's like, I'm gonna have to let my nose holes close up and start all over again. And it's already bad enough because I already changed the whole fucking shape of my nose when I got them. So I was just like, catastrophizing like I do. And I finally was like, all right, this is not going to help anything, right? So it's like I had to step back from it for a couple minutes and intentionally breathe and try to calm myself. And it's like, all right, this is going to work this time. It's like, I don't, just kind of talk me and the universe. We're going to handle this one way or another, and I don't know how we're going to do it, but all I can do is trust and you lean into that, right? So I was finally able to get it in. Well, then I had this issue where, then it was like super sore. And I've done so many videos where it was bright red and, it kept getting shifted, and then, potentially coming out of one. I discovered that, if I wasn't careful with where this front section was, it would easily come out the back hole. And it's like, I'm not trying to lose the damn holes. So, this is the old trying to get the hoop in the first time, right? So it's this whole freaking ordeal. And there was a span of time with how sore it looked and how much of a pain in the butt it was to deal with for a while, where I was debating on taking it out and going back to the studs, which I was like, oh, I'm sure that'll be complicated. Trying to go back to the studs by myself when I just, went to the hoop, and that was a whole fucking ordeal too, right? So anyway, so I had gotten it in finally, but then since it was really, really sore looking and I couldn't, I kept hitting it, I kept having to blow my nose because, going back to the lung things and the weather changes and all that fun shit. So I got really stressed out. It's like, when I got to a point where I was going to try to take it out and go back to the studs, and I couldn't make that work either, right? Because you gotta navigate it because it's in two holes. Navigate it out, and it's out here, but if it's out more back here, then I don't know how to do that because it's just, I don't know. It's just a pain in the ass, right? Anyway, there has been lots of issues around the nose ring, and I haven't always talked about it, even though there's plenty of videos that I've done where it's just been like insanely red and sore. And sometimes distractingly so. But then there was a span of time where it's like, all right, well, now I can't get it out. So I'm going to have to manifest this out of my nose, right? Because I can't make it work. And, just all this anxiety around this whole thing, right? Well, eventually it healed up. And, I discovered that if it's, just right in line, then it's okay, and it's not going to pop out the back hole, and everything is fine, right? But I have to just I check that periodically, especially like when I'm skating. My nose runs a lot, so if I blow my nose at all while I'm skating, then I, have to check it and make sure it's still where it's supposed to be. And random dog hair. So anyway, back to today. So this was something that I tried. I had thought about manifesting before. It's like, I gotta get this out of my nose now, and right, trying to make that work and, you know, make it make sense on that end. And then, you know, eventually it healed, and it's like, okay, now I like it. I did have to tweak it a little bit. I think I kind of bent part of it, and it helped slightly enough. So the big thing has been keeping it so where it's, I can feel that end, right? Well, at some point in the shower, I don't know what happened. It ended up not in the front hole at all. And I didn't notice it until I was, you know, I got out of the shower, and then I was like, oh no. Because here again, we are freaking out about the nose ring, right? Now, of course, going back to the point of when I got the nose ring, when I got the lip ring, you know, I set the intention at that time that I would never again work in a job that asked me to be anything less than 100% who I am, right? So what happened was those jobs that were, you know, essentially asking me to be less me to some capacity were falling away, right? So I had the job at Honda where I worked in the welding department, which was just loading parts to be welded by machines. And it wasn't a bad little job. The big thing was, okay, so they're heavy parts, right? And like sharp corners, right? But the uniforms, right? So all these different things. One of the things that came up, okay, so the twin flame stuff, okay, once I committed my love and career over to the universe to lead, you know, okay, the nose ring and the lip ring were with the intention to never work in a job that asked me to be less than 100% who I am. The other part of that was I watched the movie Love Again with my mom because she wanted to watch it because one of her favorite actors was in it and blah, blah, blah. So we watched the movie. And then as it was kind of toward the end of it, and mind you, this is 2023, I've been back in Indy for 4 years at this point in time. And finally, you know, I found myself thinking, it's like, maybe I'm ready to be thinking about some kind of relationship again, right? So it's like the divorce was awful in and of itself, and there's lots of healing to be done and all that crap. And, you know, like there was a brief span on the dating apps where I was just wanting to see what was out there, and it was like, ooh, no. It's like the universe provided all these opportunities of this is not where I'm going to find anybody, right? It's like, so there was the one guy it kind of worked out with for 4 years until it didn't. And then there was the other one that I stupidly married that I shouldn't have, you know, but it's like those were my experiences on this thing. And it's like, while it seemed like a good idea at the time or whatever, it's like I knew that I wasn't really wanting to meet anybody that way. But just in that time frame, it's like 2020 where I tried it out. And it didn't go well. What happened instead was it was like the universe kept presenting the worst of the worst options, right? So I had this one guy that he had been on, I think, eHarmony for months. And I know that because I got on there very briefly and then I canceled my subscription. And then when I was thinking about maybe trying it more seriously, I tried it again a few months later and he was still there. And he is one that honestly, it just screams male loneliness epidemic, right? So, yeah, hi. She's like, why are we still here? So I tried this thing. And I knew it wasn't going to work, right? And then basically what it was the universe slamming the fucking doors on anything ridiculous. And we're not wasting our time on just anybody anymore. And, you know, that's literally what I was doing in a lot of, especially the last situation with my ex was, you know, I had been chipping away, life and me were chipping away pieces of me and scattering me to the wind. And, you know, so it was like a shrunk down, broken version of me And what happened was I met my ex and it went very badly, right? Because, of course, right? So the only reason you get into those kind of relationships is because your own toxicity aligns with their toxicity enough to, get you in that situation where you feel stuck and then you can't get out of it, right? Because you feel stuck, right? So for me, the constant feeling like a burden to my family, just because I'm female, and like the whole your father's property until you're your husband's property kind of bullshit idea, right? So I went, I believed that stuff, and then I met somebody who was all set to, have somebody that, would cater to his bullshit, and yeah. Well, I've talked about that on here enough, so we're not going to wander that way. But anyway, it's, my toxicity got me into that situation where our mutual toxicities clashed in a big way, but it forced me to have to try to start choosing myself was the biggest thing. Now, back to the dating app. So this guy that had been on eHarmony for months, was still there, right? And I had, it's like, what's the point of even having the profile to begin with? Because I immediately just went incognito. I made it so I could see what was out there without having people talk to me. And then at one point it was like, okay, well, what is the point of this at all then, right? So I opened it up so people could find my profile. And this dude found my profile. And of course, on eHarmony, you get to send the icebreaker. And when I got it, I wanted to say it was like my third day. Okay, so I was at Amazon for the first bit, right? So I was working at Amazon, and we worked 4 days and then we're off 3, right? So I think it was the third day of the work days, and I was like, I'm not in the mood to deal with this right now, right? This icebreaker, right? So just in walking away from it, then I get a message from him saying, oh, well, I saw your profile. I thought we'd be a good match, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I'm wanting to say we're into the, we're pushing the 4th work day, right? And, okay, so, like, there were a few hours in between. He sent the icebreaker. I wasn't in the mood to deal with it. Then he sends this other message. I wanted to say it was at the end of the 3rd day, but I still wasn't in the mood to deal with it. So it's like, he's going to have to wait till my day off because I just cannot do this. I do not have the capacity to respond to this right now. And especially while he was saying he thought we would be a good match, I was thinking, no, we're not. Trust me, we're not. And so the last day of my work days, on my lunch break, so I had this PG, I don't even remember, something guide thing or something. Basically, I wasn't in the truck like all the other regular associates, even though I got paid like the regular associates, but it was like slightly more responsibility where, I did some stuff on the computer, and it's like keeping track of which lines had the heaviest flow and shuffling people around to some degree and jumping on to different lines to help when there was a big backup, right? To make it easier for the associates in the truck to get caught up. So, because of that, I ate at a different time from a lot of the others, right? So, I like that because I got my own lunchtime. And yeah, there were other people there that had also been the same kind of situation. But it was still, I had nothing else to do. So I had my headphones on, be listening to music. Actually, Five Finger Death Punch a whole lot. Because I want to say that was around the time the Full Circle album came out, and I fucking loved that song. And this shirt is like one of my favorites because it gives me that little help from my friends thing. So anyway, this dude, the third message, and mind you, I was going to respond to him on a day off, so I had the capacity, and this is the middle of a fucking pandemic, so I have the capacity to think and be able to give a decent response, right? And instead, what I get is a third message where he starts berating me for not having the common decency to acknowledge him at all. And, it was just this really long, extensive thing. So he got me lit up, and I was like, first off, thank you for revealing your red flags, because, the fact that you feel like you are somehow entitled to a response from me because you've been on the dating app long enough that nobody else was available, so you thought maybe we'd be a good match because I showed up and magically made my profile available one day. It was a big thing. I had lots of words. And yes, I can appreciate the fact that, he ideally you deal with the thing in a timely manner and get it over with, right? But I did not have the capacity to do it nicely beforehand. And then when he kept pushing, poking a bear with a stick, right? We're in that kind of space. And then he comes at me and it's just like, oh, dude. And I went off very nicely in a very lengthy email. I mean, well, not email, but very lengthy message on the thing. And kind of a fuck you, but not, I don't know if I full out said fuck you. But I did delete the apps because there was that one, and there was, I think on Match.com, there was the guy that was like, if you have or have ever had green hair, don't even bother talking to me because I'm looking for somebody I can take to church. It's like, oh, it's the green that means I can't go to church, right? So this is one of the few times that I haven't done green in a long time. And the reason I didn't was because, we're pushing October, and that's usually when I do purple and orange. I don't know I don't know at this point. I'm just kind of probably going to just tweak what I have with whatever colors I have left currently because I've been using it up. And, not really looking to spend all the extra quality time with my mom, where I don't have to. Anyway, that takes us back, right? But so there are these bad things or these really obnoxious things that were like, this is not where I'm going to meet anybody, right? This is not, I want to find a worthwhile person that the universe brings into my life, this kind of thing, right? So 2023. So watch the movie with my mom, and I get to a point where maybe I'm ready to think about this possibility of relationships again, right? And it's like, that hasn't gone well for me. So I think I want the universe to lead the way on this, right? So I had to very specifically, very clearly, turn that over to the universe, right? So to take the lead on. It's like, oh, well, and since I'm already doing this, well, let's just throw career in too, right? So then I think I'm pretty sure the nose ring and lip ring were after that, but I won't swear to that. And it was right there together, so it was pretty... yeah. It was connected in some way, damn it. So then it's like, Abraham Hicks is the one that always says that if you're ready to be ready, then the universe will line you up with the lessons you need to get you ready for what it is you're ready to invite in, right? Hi. Nope. Now she's done. She just stopped and was like, okay. Right, so ready to be ready. And so, yeah. Anyway, this whole tangent went back to the nose ring thing, right? Was I done with that story? I don't remember. Fuck. I ramble a lot. It is what it is. I'm not going to apologize for that. That's part of how I figure things out. So, you got hair on your nose, and I feel like I have hair on my nose. I blame you, though. Hi. She's like, can we go to your house and play now? Oh, it is 4, so it is about dinner time. Will you stop? I don't need you up my nose, heathen. We're back. Stop it. Don't bite my chin. Don't bite my face either. All right, so how'd we get there? Yeah, I don't know either. You know, I feel like even that, here we go again. Keep your name tags out of the way. I don't think any of them shows with any information, but just in case, she'll shake them back into spot. You know, like going back to that shadow piece. You know, it's like there's a part of me that would have previously associated the, you know, the responding to the guy and getting all animated because he thought I owed him my time because he reached out and thought we might be a good match because, hey, somebody matched with him thanks to the app, probably because nobody else was, right? But like he felt he was somehow obligated to my attention because, oh, well, I mean, that's basically the thing that I've been journeying through on this whole thing too, right? With the patriarchal structures that allow the entitled types to, you know, you owe me a response, but I don't owe you shit. You sent me a message and I can choose to respond to it or not. And if you want to assume that I'm a bitch because it didn't, that's fine. That's on you. That's not actually on me. That's maybe I had other shit going on. And like, as I said at that point in time, it's like, you don't know what's going on with me or my family in this fucking pandemic. And you're assuming that I just, you know, you're just entitled to my energy at some level. No. No. So, I'm coming back to that. Did I finish the nose ring thing? Okay. I don't think I did. I'm going to go back to this. So, I had it somehow out of this front hole completely. Now, this is the side that I try to keep right there so I don't lose it out the back hole. And somehow I ended up losing it out the front hole. And it was just like far back. It's like, why is it not going anywhere? It's like, oh, because there's not a hole there. What the fuck? So I'm dealing with this today, right? And going back to the version of me that started getting stressed out because the thing wasn't working out right. And, you know, when I had to like take a deep breath and like step back from it for a little bit the first time around, it was like, all right, universe, thank you that this is going to work out. I don't know how this is going to work out, but thank you that it will, right? So I had to revert back to that today because now it's out the wrong hole. And now I can't get it to go anywhere if I wanted to. I actually thought about, like, I have these, I have, like, wire snips or whatever for, like, jewelry making stuff. And I thought seriously about cutting it in half and just, like, getting rid of it altogether. And it's like, no, I will be very sad if I lose my hoop. And I kid you not, I had to spend like an hour messing with this whole thing because then I couldn't find the hole on the inside. And I could stick a regular earring through it, but then I couldn't fit the stud back through it. I was like, oh no, what is happening? And I think The last time I messed with the earring stud going through it, I think I did re-pierce it in another spot. I think it came out at somewhere different than it had been originally. But it was stressing me out. And I was ready to cry, y'all. I was ready to cut it out of there. I thought about, just letting the whole thing close up. I thought about going back to the studs. But then it's like, I don't know how I'm going to go back to the studs by myself trying to figure this out and make it the back end go through the fucking hole and all this shit. I was stressing. I was like, all right, hand it over to the universe again and take a step back again. And I feel like that's that big part of my pessimism that I tend to struggle with. It was, it's just the pessimism, the anxiety's trying to pull me back in and just keep me hung up. And it's like, I cannot do this. This is going to be okay. I don't know that I didn't change my nose shape again. Yeah. It used to be somewhat symmetrical, and now this side, it comes out more, and this side has some kind of definition, and it looks weird because the other side has no definition. So both sides used to look the same. Yeah, anyway, that was a whole ordeal, and it took me like an hour to figure it out. And I was like, all right, I got the little pieces. It's like, I need more light up my nose. And I had to take the tweezers to clear some nose hairs out so I could find the damn hole too, because there's just so little light, so little space, because it's my freaking nostril. Right? So it's like, yeah, you got a finger width up there. You can get a finger up there, no problem. But trying to maneuver a freaking post or a freaking this thing, it was a hot mess. And I was ready to freaking have a meltdown. I was like, no, we are not panicking. So it's like all these little things, just since yesterday of, okay, if I get to choose who I'm going to be, what does that leave for me to choose, right? So what's the alternative? And I think it's basically just those things of, where I would have panicked before, I was riding that panic real close, that anxiety train, tried hard. And I was just like, no, we are not going to panic on this one. We are going to make this work. I don't know how, but we will figure it out. And we got it figured out. Like I said, not 100% that I didn't end up with an extra hole on the inside, but is what it is at this point. At this point, I'm just happy that I got the hoop back where it's supposed to go. It did take like an hour. I have, so the studs that I had, they have the post with the back on it is the longer part, and the shorter part that goes through the top snips or slips into it, and it's the same thing as these, but it's got like a disc on the back of it, right? But then the post, this end snaps into the other end, and the other end's the longer one, so it's got to go through the to the hole better. And it's like, it just was a hot mess. And I was freaking out. Well, I was trying to refrain from freaking out, but there, like I said, there was that I was riding real close to that anxiety train, and I really wanted to jump on. I was like, no, we're not doing this. That is the old version, that we're not trying to line up with that stress anymore. We're going to figure this out. And we figured it out. And it did hurt a little bit. Not near as much as I thought it would. Didn't bleed near as much as I thought it would, and somehow it's not near as red as I thought it should be. But I had this big ass earring. It's one that's the size of this bigger one, and that was what went through. I was like, okay, so it's still pierced, because I was afraid that the other side of it was going to close up. Because I've gotten, from things that I've read, it seems like some piercings are relatively quick to closing up and, rejecting the piercings in general. And I kind of feel like, especially with the facial ones, but I kind of feel like that I was concerned that it was going to do that it was going to close up on me and I wasn't going to be able to fix it. And then I was going to, I can't just go get it redone right now. Even though if it's still pierced, it would be $10 for them to help me change out the jewelry. But if it was no longer pierced, then to re-pierce it would be like another $40. I wasn't trying to do that. Especially because for like 2 weeks I've had 501 in my bank, like $5 and a penny in my bank, right? And there have been some things that are currently late because I'm waiting on my aunt and uncle to pay me at this point. The other stuff, like I haven't ended up selling anything else because I'm trying to navigate this space and not get locked into the poverty consciousness that I've always had in my life, right? I'm not trying to maintain that existence. I'm trying to release that, but it's not going real smoothly right now. So today I went from, I have 501 in the bank, my $5 and a penny, to I get this message this morning and it looks like something automatically came out. It's like, what automatically came out? Because nothing's supposed to be able to if I don't have the funds to cover it, right? So if there's a $10 a month charge for like, the memory on my computer. Don't feed them. Oh, fuck. 11111. Okay. She's going to have to wait a minute. So, $10 on the computer memory, right? If I don't have that in the bank, it's not supposed to go through because I have my bank. So it's not just adding on freaking overdraft fees all the time. Right. So, right. So, yeah. So something came out. It's like, okay, I got to figure out what the fuck that was. What was able to take it into the negative, because now I have negative $1.99. It's like, the fuck? And I looked. This is where I loathe banks, because they don't necessarily care if you have the as long as you have, I think she said when I was in there last time, as long as you have like $200 in your bank account, you don't even get the service fee. If you have less than that, then you get the monthly service fee. And it's like, yes, because obviously I've had $5.01 in the bank for a couple weeks now. Clearly, this is the time I need a fucking $7 monthly service fee to come out and take my account into the negative, because they do want you to have those the negative things, because if you don't know that you can get them switched, then like old me, I got hit a few times with this freaking $37 overdraft fees. And then of course it's hard to get back into the positive once you start racking those up, right? So somewhere along the line, and I don't even know where it was exactly, but somewhere along the line I did end up going in and talking to somebody and finding out that, hey, they can reverse those. It's like, huh. And there's like, with this bank, I've had to go in, I think 3 or 4 times to get some of those things reversed. Like, she'll give me the money back for the freaking service fee. It's like, I don't have it there. Why are you trying to take it out? So now I owe these freaking service fees, right? So this is some bullshit, right? Anyway, I got to deal with this dog food drama before this one doesn't get fed and all the others do, and then she wants to go over there and eat with the others, but they've already fed them or whatever, all this dumb shit. Anyway, I'll figure out. Maybe tomorrow's will be more coherent. No promises. I mean, I seem pretty all over the place most of the time anyway, right? So, I mean, that I think is pretty typical me. We're just trying to go for the negative slants less often than we used to, but not, I mean, okay, going back to the thing with the dude on the dating app thing. Originally, when I looked at that situation, I might see that as, that was bad behavior on my part, but it's like, it wasn't. That was actually something that pissed me off immensely and forced me to step up and say something for myself, right? Rather than just allow some asshole to be an asshole and feel like he's entitled to my time, because that's the world we were raised in, where men think they're entitled to women's time just because they exist. Yeah, but it's like navigating the fact that okay, I feel like on the feminine end of things, that is one of those things on where the shadow comes from, even, is this idea that people feel they're somehow entitled to your energy just because they exist, and because you're a female, and because this fucking whole system with religions and all this bullshit, the patriarchal systems that be, are so dead set on keeping the feminine subservient, and, so the men don't have to step up and do their own work and become decent humans. They, get the pat on the back just for existing. Like my fucking grandfather, right? So like, he was very much an only child. And his mommy, he was very much a mama's boy, right? So then his mommy, I think, ended up dying at 42, which is my age currently, of colon cancer. He never found himself outside of that connection. And then my great-grandfather, I don't think was the best on the fatherly end of things, but I think part of that is like a generational thing in general. I think older generations just have a whole different way of being. I actually saw this video yesterday. It's a little short thing on YouTube. I think it was Teal Swan, and she was talking about how boomers and millennials, it's like these two, never before have there been two generations that have hated each other any more than the boomer generation and the millennial generation, because millennials can look at like the boomers and, all the things the boomers accepted as this has to happen for you to have any kind of worthwhile life. But then we did all those things and did not get the results that we were told we were going to get from doing those things. So we're having to find a new way of being in this world without use of what they taught us. And they are coming, my mom especially, like, is all about, trying to be in my face that I'm doing things wrong now, trying to figure anything out for myself. I mean, granted, she doesn't know I'm doing this thing, and she doesn't know what else I am doing. She just thinks I'm lazy because I'm not overexerting myself on everything anymore to cater to everybody else's bullshit, because I'm trying to figure out how to exist in this world without the bullshit that they just accepted that they had to do, because, you're just as a girl, you're just supposed to take care of your parents when they start, they start their health slips or whatever. It's like, no, you made the fucking decisions to keep telling yourself how bad of health you were in all along the way. You actively made those decisions over and over and over and over again. And no, I don't feel like I should have to clean up for you because what you kept speaking into existence happened. No. So I want to have a life of my own, and I don't know how to make that happen, but I'm going to figure it out, damn it. So anyway, going back to that leaving thing so I can go feed dogs. As always, I appreciate you. Until the next time. See ya.